So our next subtitle is Dred Scott versus Sandford. So this is the main issue that will color the beginning of Buchanan's presidency. So you can see it takes place right at the beginning of his presidency, right at his inauguration in March of 1857. So the issue here is again over slavery. And it's important to note at this time the Supreme Court was dominated by the South and by pro-slavery judges. In fact, the Chief Justice at this time, Roger B. Taney, was himself a Southerner as well. So what happens in this case, it revolves around Dred Scott. Dred Scott himself was an African American slave who had been taken by his master to Wisconsin and Illinois before returning to his home state of Missouri. The problem was that Wisconsin and Illinois were free states, whereas Missouri was a slave state. So it was on this basis that Dred Scott sued the court for his freedom. Since he had been taken to a state where slavery was illegal, he thought that he should be freed by his owner. So the court debates this for a while. It's not just in March of 1857. It had been going on for a while before that, but the decision is made in March of 1857. That date is significant. We'll get to that in just a moment. So the court does come to a decision, and their decision about Dred Scott himself is twofold. One, they rule against Scott's freedom. So they say that even though he was taken to a free state, that does not mean that he should be considered free. Now he is still a slave, and that is protected, that status is protected even if he enters a free state. So Dred Scott is still a slave. But they don't stop there. They also rule that Dred Scott is property, since he is owned by his master, and property cannot sue, since he is not legally a person. So not only do they say you don't get your freedom, they also say you shouldn't even be able to be in the court. This is a double blow not only for Dred Scott, but for all slaves and abolitionists who've been working more and more to get those who are enslaved viewed as people rather than property. We saw that before with the case with the Amistad slave ship. So they rule against Dred Scott. That is bad enough. The North is enraged just by that. They also strike down the Missouri Compromise, declare it illegal. Now, of course, as we've seen with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, they've already pretty much repealed it. So it doesn't do a lot in reality, but it's still another blow to the North. But to make things worse, this all happens right at the time of Buchanan's inaugural address. In his inaugural address, he says that they should obey the court's ruling, whatever it may be. So on the day of his inauguration, the court had not ruled on the Dred Scott case yet, so Buchanan said in his speech that they should obey whatever the court says. The court is the one that gets the final decision on slavery. And then, the next day, the court announces the ruling. So with those two things coinciding so closely, it looks an awful lot like Buchanan knew what the court was going to rule and was trying to prep the nation to accept that ruling. So the Northerners are even more upset because now it looks like a conspiracy between the court, which is supposed to be neutral, and a pro-slavery Democratic president. So this supposed conspiracy angers Northerners even more and colors the beginning of Buchanan's presidency, bringing us on another step towards the Civil War that will break out a few years from this point.